I want to speak about the present, but I also want to speak about the future, particularly the leaders of the future. And I know I have an accent, and sometimes I sound like Gloria in Modern Family. And it will take a few moments to tune into my accent, but you'll love it, and at the end of the session, you will even miss it, okay? I want to talk about the neuro leaders, and we have heard so much about the difference between leaders and managers for so many decades. And I think that today we have to start thinking in terms of how we use our brains in a wise manner. That's why I want to call this session the economy of the neuro leader. And I hope you don't think like Woody Allen in terms of your brain, okay? I want you to touch your heads, okay? You have one there? Yeah, there's a brain inside, okay? So I think everybody will be interested in knowing some of the latest trends of neuroscience and how we can use them in developing leaders and applying it in organizations. But to understand the future, it is important to revisit our past. We learn so much about our past, but we forget. And I want to start with the year 1912, 100 years ago, when William Stern, a German philosopher, came up with the formula for IQ. So we didn't know much about the brain, but we were starting to think about, well, if we get smart people, we should be able to do the work properly. Henry Ford, at the time, 1912, imagine, he was the person, the employer who paid the highest salary per day, $5 a day he used to pay to his employees. But he also was trying to apply the formula to engage others by command and control. So he set up a whole troop of auditors and people who would go around the organization just checking, making sure that people would do their work. The same year, we had the Titanic sinking, and Captain Smith died with the ship. In a scene of the Titanic, we remember this conversation, ladies? We are women. We don't have options. And also in 1912, my grandfather, Juan, a farmer in Spain, facing the worst drought in the country and just recently becoming a widow, he decided to migrate to Argentina, to South America. And he settled there in the north of Argentina growing potatoes. But in 1922, he had 137 strikes. Imagine that. So all the potatoes that would get to the harbor in Buenos Aires would be rotten by the time they arrived there because the trains would stop over and over in this 1,000 kilometers journey. But not everything was so bad. He found love as well, and he met my grandmother. And they got married. And very saddened by the situation and tired of what was happening, they decided to migrate to Cuba. Why? Because the sugar cane was high in price and things were looking really good. So he went to Cuba with her. And they have 4 kids there. But then the 1929 depression sent the sugar cane prices down, like, half the price. They had to sell their production. And then they said, enough is enough. We are going back to Europe. They went back to Europe without knowing that 3 years after they arrived, the Spanish Civil War would start, followed by the Second World War. Imagine that. The world was at a certain place. And children would learn from their parents. And hardly anyone would talk about emotions. It was a dictatorial approach. And the same thing happened in the workplace. In terms of the brain, in 1936, Portuguese doctor Edgar Moniz put a type of, a little bit of a pencil inside someone's eye and started to move anything that was in what we call today the prefrontal cortex, trying to find out if he could cure some illnesses by removing parts of our brain. Imagine that, okay? Today we know that this is the most important part of our brain. They didn't know that then. So during the next 100 years, many things happened. Some values would change. Captains would no longer die with their ships. And what I'm about to show you is the number of years to reach 50 million users in the US. So imagine this, 37 years for the radio, 13 years for television, 5 years for the internet, and in 3 years, Facebook reached 200 million people in America alone. Social media would become the way to connect for 96% of Gen Z and Gen Y, Gen Z being the ones born after 1990s. Emotional intelligence would become popular in the workplace. And children would teach their parents how to use technology. If not, get your 3-year-old to show you how to use the iPad, because I still can't work it out.